There's always something unreal about a festival. So far removed from normal, mundane life. Strangers talking, smiling, and dancing. The lights, the sounds, the music. People come together to celebrate all that is best about mankind. There is a truth to music, a purity, a drama, an intensity and spirit that makes it impossible to resist. There is more that matters in life, but not much that matters so much to so many. Music defines an instant in time. It ingrains itself into those moments in history that never fade. Every generation has its soundtrack, and each generation will remember theirs until the day they die.
Pump up the jam, pump it up while your feet are stumping, and the jam is bumping. Look ahead, the crowd is jumping. Pump it up a little more, get the party going on the dance floor. See, cause that's where the party's at, and you find out if you do that. Good life, good life, fantastic, never heard.
Welcome back to episode 2 of the second series of Anthony Meets, keeping with the glamour and, of course, the gorgeousness. I'm joined today by the fabulous Ritchie Neville from 5. Ritchie, hello, how are you?
Hey, very well, thank you. Very well. Yourself?
I'm getting there. We had a big awards do at the weekend, so I'm starting to recover.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is you're absolutely hungover and you're not quite sure whether you're going to make it.
I'm relying on you to pull me through here, Richie. I know that you've got all the talent and all the wisdom there to get us through. I'm joking. Look, it's an absolute pleasure to be with you. But you've had a bit of a heavy weekend yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, just been off gigging in Dubai. So yeah, it was kind of a bit of a flash visit. Came off stage, went straight to the airport, flew home. So yeah, just sort of getting myself back in the land of the living.
Lovely. And talking to gig, and actually the reason that we're chatting today is you have a big gig coming up, isn't that right?
We've got quite a few, but yeah, we've got one coming up on Saturday, the Reminisce Festival in St Helens, which we cannot wait to get cracking on.
Fantastic. And tell us a bit more about the Reminisce Festival. What can people expect to find there?
As you can tell by the name, it's more sort of retro acts. I think there's a lot of 90s dance acts. I don't know off the top of my head who's there this year, but I know that there's, there will be all those 90s classic dance tunes that we all know and love. And then, acts like ourselves, and it's just a fun day in a field with tents and this and that, and yeah, it goes off. It definitely goes off.
Lovely. I know that you've got a few of my favorites. So you've got Wakefield, you've got Liberty X, you've got Angie Brown, who Angie actually recorded the very first episode of this series about 2 years ago with this, so it's lovely. It's lovely that it's all starting to connect up, actually. But Reminisce, obviously, it's all about looking backwards. Let's look a little bit backwards with you. So tell us, how did 5 come about?
So for my personal sort of, I was actually in a play. I was acting at the time, and I was at school, and I took the newspaper up to bed just to sort of read something, try and get my head. Like when you come off stage, it's kind of like I get really like scatty and I can't sleep. So I was just flicking through the paper, and it was like about page 7. They picked it was a whole page spread. It says, "Do you want to be a Spice Boy?" Now I was like a little into my dance music and like grunge music at the time. I was 16, And I was like, oh, please, you've got to be kidding me. They can't be making a band called the Spice Boys. That's so rubbish. Like, because Spice Girl, you know, mania was going on. And I just remember the last paragraph. It said, anyone interested, take your dancing shoes and a backing track to Pineapple Studios in London this Saturday. And I angrily sort of flicked past it going, what a load of rubbish. And then the cogs started going, well, they wouldn't call it the Spice Boys. That's just what they're calling it. So flick back. And I go, nah, never wanted to be in a pop band, really. And I kept flicking back, going back. And I did this about 7 times. And then I went down and actually just showed my mum. I said, Mum, have you seen that in the paper? And she went, well, I did actually. And, you know, like, do you want to go? I was like, you know, we're not going to lose anything other than a bit of petrol getting down to London, are we? She went, okay, yeah, we'll do it. So I whipped a backing track up, like got someone to do that for me and went down and yeah, it was like a circus, like a cattle prodding you into rooms. And there was 3,000 people. There was a Spice Girls tribute act. The queue was going right round Covent Garden, round all the streets. It was crazy. I didn't know what I'd got myself into. And then, yeah, they whittled 3,000 guys down to 14. And they called us back about 2 or 3 weeks later. And, yeah, within about 45 minutes, we were put into the 5 that was the 5IVE'S. And that little known secret was, and a big reason why we called ourselves 5 was because they didn't want, because they'd been Take That and they'd been Boyzone and everything was a 5-piece. For a change, they wanted 4. And so they were trying to decide who to lose.
Oh, wow.
But they couldn't decide. They went, you know what, it's got to be the 5 of them.
Ah, very good. I like that. So was it an instant hit amongst you? You know, you put 5 good-looking, talented blokes in a room who are all going to be adored by the world, really. Obviously, there's egos going to come into play, I presume. Did you all bond and fall in love, or were you all secretly hoping one would fall off the stage?
I think it was probably a bit of both, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was a shared experience. I remember that feeling of like, you know, we want to sign you up to this and da 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 da, and all of us just looking at each other going, oh wow, like, wow, we made it. You know, that's crazy. And then yeah, and then as time goes on, you know, as you're a 17-year-old guy and the other lads are young, you know, guys, and you of course you have a bit of, you know, inner competition with your contemporaries. You know, but you also know you're on the same team. Like, it's different now. Like, if I think when I was 17 in the very beginning, if maybe like someone at one time, because you went in phases anyway, but if someone was getting a bit more attention, you'd feel that and you'd be like, oh no, like everyone hates me. Whereas now, if Scott gets loads of attention, I think great, because, you know, he's part of my team.
Yeah.
Whereas it was just a little bit more insecure in those days when you,
yeah.
So
our audience is an LGBTQ plus audience, and many of whom will have had your posters on the wall. Many of whom will have fallen in love with you and married you in their dreams a million times already. But back in the 90s, yes, things were starting to move on and become a bit more progressive, but it was still a bit kind of a new thing for maybe a boy band to be fancied by other boys. What was your experiences of that? How did it feel? Was it a bit odd, or was it like, yay, somebody likes me?
No, it wasn't. I don't, you know, I mean, maybe the way you're describing it, I think you're looking at it as an overall arc, almost looking back at it historically.
Yeah.
But actually, there was no issue whatsoever. Like, there was literally none.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, you know, it was just like, yeah, great, you know. Oh, Ritchie, you know, I love you and I think you're gorgeous and blah blah blah. Well, hey, you can come again. You know what I mean? Give us a hug, man. Yeah, no, like I don't see it like that at all. Yeah, no, I think I'm sure it was Scott, actually. Scott did the front cover of Attitude magazine when he was 17.
Lovely.
And it was like, yeah, go on, man, wicked. You know, there was literally none whatsoever. Gorgeous. I do remember, actually, it's quite a funny story, because Sean was only 15, and we had the same like hair and makeup guy, Ben Skirvin, who is, you know, he's obviously a gay guy, you know, and he, you know, that's that. He's just Ben. And but Sean's like was from Yorkshire at the time and only 15, lived a quite a sheltered life, brought up on a, you know, a council estate and all of that. So we were talking, we must have just been, you know, while he's fixing up our faces, we were all sort of nattering away. And I think Sean was talking to someone about girlfriends, and he turned around, he said to Ben, "Have you got a girlfriend, Ben?" And I nearly died inside. I was like, "Oh, really? Like, I can't believe you've asked that." And I think Ben was doing his face. He went, "No, Sean, I'm gay." And Sean was like, "Oh, all right."
Oh, bless.
It was a funny moment. You had to be there, but yeah, it's just sort of him like, "Oh, okay." I'm not sure he'd ever met anybody gay before.
Yeah. No, I know. Actually, just to say that, because I grew up in council estates too in Northern Ireland, which at the time was the height of the Troubles here as well. So it was a crazy time, you know. But I went into modelling when I was like 15, which was obviously 700 years ago. But I remember my first exposures as well, and you know, even to, you know, other gay guys and just fashionable sort of celebrity people in general, and just being complete, how on earth do I talk to these people? How what do I actually do? It was quite bizarre. But you never, so there was like, you know, lots of boy bands would have been told that if you're in a relationship, you've got to keep it a secret, or if you're gay, you've got to keep it a secret. Were you all pretty much free to do what you like, or was there a bit of holding back?
No, we were told very much our brief. I remember the conversation because at the time boy bands were, you know, saying that they didn't drink, they never were in any relationships or anything like that. But our management sat us down and said, "Look, we just want you. We're not asking you to be, you know, necessarily outrageous. We just want you to live a normal life and be yourselves."
Great.
So if that involves getting into a relationship, well, hey, you got into a relationship, you do like a drink, so you don't need to hide it.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. But I would imagine possibly at the time, I don't know, because as it goes, none of our band were gay, certainly that we didn't know at the time anyway. So I don't know, but so I'm only I'm speaking hypothetically, but
Yeah.
I would imagine there might have been some trepidation in those days, with it being mainly a female audience.
Yeah.
That there may have been trepidation from the label, not that they were gay, but just what it might do for the band and for the product, if you like.
Yeah.
So like for instance, Stephen Gately, I'm sure that might have been a struggle for him.
Yeah.
For a while. I'm sure the boys knew after a while.
Yeah.
I don't know how fast they knew, but I'm sure they would have been aware of it. You know, they were with him every day. They were his mates, you know, so yeah, I don't know, but that's an interesting one. That one could have, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I always ask my guests is rose and thorn. So what was the ultimate high when you thought, wow, I'm a pop star? And then what was the ultimate thorn where you thought being a pop star really sucks?
Okay. Yeah, I can easily answer those two. So I've always said fame's fun for 6 months. Right, and especially when you're 17 and you realise that you can't go to a shopping mall, like you walk through anywhere and all of a sudden people are pointing, screaming, you're getting mobbed, groups around you, oh my god, and you don't realise, because you've just done a few photo shoots, and you don't realise the power of the media and the power of, you know, as soon as that face goes out there and people recognise you and you're on telly a few times, you don't realise, and then you're quite sheltered because you go into doing these gigs, and it's like young girls. It's when you go into that normal public domain, you go, oh wow, I can't actually move. And for a little while, your ego goes, oh yeah, this is quite cool, you know, look at me. And then after about 6 months, it's exactly for those reasons that you sort of, it can become stressful, because, you know, you're not always on top of the world as a person. You have good days, you have bad days. You know what? Sometimes you just want to go and get a pint of milk and go back to the flat, and you're not, maybe you're feeling a bit anxious or you're not feeling yourself. And it's sort of, you know, when it's that intense, and everywhere you go and you're constantly and it's just a pandemonium, it can just become a bit stressful, and you kind of wish you wish you could turn it on, you know, go to work, and then when you were finished, turn it off, but it just doesn't have an off switch.
Yeah.
Or you might be out having a meal with a significant other or something like that, and you've only got such a short amount of time off. You don't even get to have a conversation because it's just a constant stream of people, so much that it's, you know, and I think that's why, you know, people, you know, you know, the public see the famous people going to expensive places and things like that, but kind of I think they go there because they don't get bothered when they go to that kind of place.
Yeah.
It's less likely kind of thing. But you know, that said, you know, we never forgot who puts you there. It's just that when it's, you know, when you've only got 2 hours and you literally don't get 3 words out to somebody because of the constant stream, it's like, oh, this is really, really tricky, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even on the C list, that probably scraping a Z at some point. But there was a stage where we were kind of on tour. My partner and I did sort of wedding TV shows and written for magazines and stuff. So we toured a lot of hotels and arenas doing the big wedding shows. But I was having a lunch in a hotel, business lunch, and a chap who was quite a big and butch kind of guy invited himself to sit at my table and asked me, did I remember him? Now, you know yourself, you've met thousands and thousands of people, you've no chance of remembering everybody. And I said, no, I don't, but nice to see you, yada yada. Well, he wouldn't go away, but it was this, I can't really describe how frightening it was. It was a really overpowering, weird sort of staring at me thing for a period of time. And eventually the hotel security actually removed him. But that one experience was enough for me to go, I don't think I ever want to get to the A. That was really, really, really scary. Have you found yourself in those kind of scenarios where you think, uh-oh?
Yeah. You know, there's been a few over the years. You know, I mean, I remember I went through a series of constantly receiving fan mail, but it was like death threats essentially. You know, like, this is what I want to do to you, and then it was like something from a Saw movie, and it was, you know, and then because then you didn't know who it was, but then you'd be going out doing these public events with a lot of regular faces, and you'd be like, is it that one? Is it that one? Which one is it? And you so get paranoid, you know. Yeah, you know, look, the way I try to see it now, because it's been a part of my life now, because I was 17 when I got into it, more than it hasn't been a part of my life. And it's not as intense as when we were like on top of the pops and in his face all the time. But you do still get stops most days, every day when you go to the shop or whatever. But the way I'm super friendly, they just recognize you from off the telly, do you know what I mean? And that excites them, they get excited and they just want to say hello. And that's cool, you know. That's like to give people that little bit of time, that little bit of pleasure, that they can go off and go, oh, guess who I saw today, and they're buzzing about it. Well, you know, that's a pleasure. It's just when it can get a bit, I don't know, like if you're out, you've had a few drinks, other people have had a few drinks, and then you get a really aggro guy. It happens so rarely, but sometimes they'll be like, who do you think you are, mate? And you're just sitting chilling, mind your own business. Maybe you're having a little boogie, and I don't know, you know, then it can get a bit annoying. But it's just, I guess, the price of fame. Like, you know, it's just the way it is. You just accept it, and you know, I don't, you know, I've learned how to deal with it in a way that I can stand up for myself and I can look after myself, so I don't fear in that way. You know, if it crosses a certain boundary, I'll quite happily tell them where to go. if need be, you know, I'm not worried about it.
And right, you are too. So tell me, how does 5's music happen? Are you the guy behind the writing, or how does that come about?
No, like, we've all had our input over the years. We all spent time in the studio writing. You know, so it was pretty split out. And you know, it was a mad mixing pot, really, which I think, you know, was to our you know, progress, and sort of a lot to do with our, I guess in a way we're kind of unique, you know, we're quite unique for a pop band and for a boy band in our sound, and that was because there was 5 very diverse musical tastes. that came into it, and then were given, you know, it wasn't like just send them to the songwriters. It was like get them to work with the songwriters. And the brief was edgier, you know, maybe funky, dancey, rocky, you know, bit of rap, hip hop, just stick it in the pot and blend it around and see what happens. Yeah, and I think, you know, that's kind of cool, you know, that sort of just happened of its own accord with our inputs.
Lovely. And you brought some new music out in January, Time, wasn't it?
Yeah, Time, our album Time. So this was, the fans had been asking us for years, you know, on social media, can we get another album? Can we get another album? And we'd go in phases, like a couple of us might feel it and one wasn't, or, you know, we were never in the same place. And it was when the COVID lockdowns happened and stuff like that, we went, well, okay, life's giving us lemons. What should we do? Should we just do something, like give us a bit of focus? And so, yeah, we put that album together, and it was literally for the fans. We didn't even go to a record label with it. We just went, right, make this album, we're gonna stick it out and have a listen to that. That's for you guys. You know, thanks for being there for all those years. And yeah, that, you know, it's been really well received. They've loved it, and you know, it was a great doing it as well.
Lovely. Well, Ritchie Neville, thank you very much for your time. It's been gorgeous chatting with you, and I know that your schedule is hectic ahead of Reminisce Festival at Shirley Park St Helens, Saturday the 10th of September, which is the UK's favourite old school festival. I know that you'll have a ball there, and I know that everybody that attends will absolutely have a ball. Have a wonderful week, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for